Hello and welcome to Miss Han Loves Grammar. This is Results Day 2018 and this video is here for you whether you are scared, worried or maybe even a teeny tiny bit excited to get your results today. I hope you get exactly what you wanted. But as I narrate for you what the grade boundaries are, I'm referencing last summer's exam boundaries as well. So exam boundaries were released this morning at 8 a.m. and I'm going to be explaining to you what the percentage changes are and in real terms considering how much harder it actually was this summer from, let's say, the boundaries that your teachers used for your English language or literature exams based on last summer's. All the best, and I hope this is of help for you as you await your results. So let's kick off with English language. Now what I have for you is the raw marks in each row at the top for 2017 at the top, and then you can compare it to 2018 in the row beneath it. And then I have the percentage change between each year. So that's the amount you needed in percentage last year compared to this year. Now it's interesting to note that there's a 3% difference roughly across each of the incremental grade boundaries this year. And it's 3% tougher, suggesting that we have been better at these papers than in previous years. We found the paper slightly more easy than they expected. But more interestingly enough, it's about a 5-mark difference at the top end to get a 9 or an 8 than it was the year before. So we're looking at getting 80% this year to get a 9 and 74% to get yourself an 8. Now, if we look at the difference between getting a 7 and a 4, there's a 20% difference, just like there was last year. But it's interesting to let you know it's just 4 marks tougher to get a 7 than it was last year. Same with a 6, same with a 5, same with a 4. Now, as a head of English, I am fascinated by the fact that a 4 is still not 50%. So you can still pass your English language today. If you've got a 4, you may not have even got 50% on these papers, and you still passed. That's fascinating. And then if we look at this again, even a 5, which is meant to be a strong pass, is a 54% percentage, okay? So that's fascinating because it implies that in the middle, we're still finding these papers incredibly tough. But when you're seeing these slim percentage differences, for some of you this morning, if you're not happy with the mark, there might be an argument to get these remarked because we're looking at the difference of 3-4 marks here. So if you aren't happy this morning and you see these grades and you see these raw marks now, it might be worth reconsidering about really approaching your English teacher or whoever provided your exam facilities and asking for your paper to be recalled if you're nervous. It's a totally different story though when we move on to English literature. It's a sign that this set of papers was tougher, and that as a consequence, AQA have had to lower the grade boundaries this year by roughly 4% for English literature. So last year you needed 141 marks out of the 160 to secure yourself a 9, and this year it's 136. And you might say, oh, it's only 5 marks, not that big of a deal. When you go to 8, it's a 7-mark drop. And again, the drop gets bigger. With a 7, it's 7 marks more generous than last year, and same with a 6, 7 marks easier than last year. This tells us that the memorization of quotations is still really tough, that students across the country are finding this particular set of papers difficult. But it's interesting for you to note that whereas with language, you're scraping 48%, you're going to get a 4, you can get a 5 in English literature at 48% at the moment. And that's interesting because we were expecting these boundaries to be tougher. All in all, the headlines for English this year are not as dramatic as your teachers might have feared. So English language was tougher by 3%, so roughly 4 or 5 marks per grade boundary difference. And then English literature was more generous by about 4%. So it was easier to get the marks, suggesting your paper was tougher. But regardless, you've done it. Now you might be referring back to this video because you want to know whether you should think about getting your exams remarked, or you might just be flipping chuffed with how amazingly well you've done. Regardless, I hope this has been helpful for you, and all the best in all you do. Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?